Hi, welcome to the Get Ready with God podcast. My name is Julie Taylor, and I am your host, and I am not God, obviously. I'm not an expert. I'm not even a scriptorian. I'm literally just a girl sitting in front of a microphone, hoping God is real. The Get Ready with God podcast is the daily devotional podcast to help you see divinity in every day, every single freaking day. You know, last week on the podcast, the Apple transcripts thought that I said the F word. I would like to reiterate that I did not. If you think that I said that, you are wrong. Apple was wrong. I very intentionally keep this podcast clean and not explicit. So bite me. That's why we say bite me. If your kids are in the car, they should know the phrase bite me. That's something you should be teaching your children. And I stand by that. So I've been recording my audiobook this week, right? How many times can I talk about it? I can talk about it every day. Okay. It's my podcast. Anyways, it's really, really hard and I actually hate it. The reason I'm bringing this up is that not only is it really hard to read the book, but the whole time I'm reading it, I'm picturing all of you reading it and being like, this might suck. This book might suck. They might hate this. And then there's this other really fun part of the equation where by the time a book comes out, you wrote it a really long time ago. And so I finished writing this book over a year ago. And by the time it comes out, it'll be like, a year and a half. And that might not seem like that much time. But for me, am a whole different person every 2 years. I usually get a new job and a new personality and a new life about every 2 years. A year and a half in my time is really long. So there's parts of the book that I'm reading that I'm thinking, oh, that's not what I would say now. Oh, why did I say that? I don't think that that's what I would say now. And, I can't change it. But the really interesting thing is the things that I'm most critical of are the parts where I think I'm like a little bit more rigid than I am now. And I think my trajectory is fascinating to me because I was a very type A person until about 5 years ago. And I always joke that then I broke and now I'm type B. But really it was like fighting against myself, my whole life of all of the things that I kind of am inherently, I viewed as morally less than. And so I would force myself to comply to this other way of living. And I'm capable of both, but one takes a lot more energy. And it's been kind of liberating, not kind of, really liberating to kind of lean into oh, but this is actually who I am. This is actually how I behave. However, I think it's easy for me to say that now, but when I look back on kind of more of that type A behavior or I loved a system and I loved regimented things and that's not how I live now. But I think that version of me is what has allowed this version of me to exist. And that's true of everything. I think we can always look at our past selves and see how that version of ourselves created and built and helped this present version. And so this is why I think that it's so important to, one, remember that you can change your mind. You can always change your mind, and to let other people change their minds. And two, to just remember times and seasons. And right now is not forever. And three, to really connect to your source to guide you in what you need to do and be and become. Because this will be true of my book, and it's true of every book and every podcast. Sometimes it's just not the time. And so I see stuff every day come across my desk, my algorithm, or I have conversations with people that they give me advice or they say something and I'm just like, oh no, I deeply disagree with that. I deeply morally disagree, but it's just kind of oh no, that's not for me. No, thank you. No, thank you. I don't want to count my macros, but thank you. There was a time, And it's back to this idea of things being all good or all bad, and to just classify things as not for me and not for right now. That can be kind of the way that we pass things up. And so when I think about this in the terms of faith, I think it's so interesting because a lot of people talk to me about not just their own faith struggles, but how uncomfortable it is for them to have people around them believe differently than them. Either way, I have people who are leaving religion and they're like, it's so hard to, have my family stay in. And then I have people staying in. It's so hard that my kids have left. And I always just try to remind them that, one, trust the path. God's in charge. It's going to be fine. And I don't mean it's going to be fine and that you're going to get the outcome that you want. But I also just want to remind myself and others that the journey you go on is such an essential part of your life. You can't skip it. And so when I'm reading this stuff that I wrote that maybe now I'm like, oh, I don't know that I would identify with that, or I don't know if I'd still choose that. I can also still so clearly see how for that part of my life and that part of my development, that was such an essential piece. But if we aren't connected to our source, to our divine source, and we don't have that personal relationship established, we are going to be tossed to and fro constantly because the narratives being handed to us are consistently contradictory. Do this, no, do this. Be this way, no, be this way. And if we always just fall victim to falling into whatever category is being handed to us today or trying whatever is popular, we're not going to be on our own line of progress and development the way that we will be if we stay connected to our divine source and we let that be our guide and allow that to be what makes us decide what we're putting our energy toward, what we're focusing on, what we're letting go of, who we're becoming. And it's all part of the bigger piece of the puzzle. And so it's been really interesting reading my own book and reflecting and thinking. And I'm so grateful for the version of me who did that, because that is what has afforded me the luxury of being myself today. And I like who I am today. And I like how I live today and the choices that I make today. And I feel confident and I feel aligned and I feel all of those things. Anyways, it's a pretty cheesy message to be like, look at where you've been to see how far you've come. But I do think that it is important when we can see the value in where we've been and why we were there and what it did for us, no matter what, even if it's very different than what you agree with now and who you want to be now and what you want to choose now. When we can respect the path that got us here, I think it allows us to be more open ourselves to explore different paths, be divinely guided down whatever path we're asked to. But I also think it takes the pressure off of needing everyone to be at a certain destination for things to be okay, and needing yourself to be at a certain destination for things to be okay. When you view it as this evolving and this becoming, it's a lot more comfortable to be like, I'm not where I want to be, or they're not making choices that I wish they were, but it's all part of the process, baby. It's all part of the process. And to have compassion for the past, willingness for the future, and the ability to let other people go on the path and the journey that they need to be. I mean, we are inundated with a huge amount of information and content and messaging and whatever every single day, and it's really hard to sort through. But if you're connected to that source, I think you can trust you're always becoming what you need to become and doing what you need to do and going where you need to go, even if at the moment it doesn't feel like where you wish you were or who you wish you were or the way you wish things were. One thing's always leading to the next thing, you know? We're all just out here wandering around, trying to find our way and trying to do it the best we can. Anyone who sells you a narrative otherwise, I think, is just trying to sell you something. Put it in your pipe, light it up, smoke it, go buy a shirt. Love you, bye.